Hello, welcome to day 3. And of course, today we're going to be looking at data types. What are the available data types and how you can apply them in your project. Okay, so one thing to note is that in computer science, computer use the data type to really understand the intention of the program. In other words, computer want to know when you're referring to a number or when you're referring to just a paragraph. Just like the way when you see a number, you're able to tell, computer as well want to be able to tell if your intentions are number or if your intentions are floats. We're going to be seeing what they mean and how you can apply them in your project. Now, let's talk about string. String. We've actually used string. Remember the print function that you wrote, right? Where you have the opening quotes and the closing quotes. That's actually string. String can be defined just for you to have your opening and closing quotes. And let's see how that works. So let's say, for instance, we want to declare a string. What you just need to know is you need to have your opening and closing quotes. Whatever is in between is string. For instance, if I say A, B, C, D, right? Whatever is inside are string. If I still come below and I say another string and I say 1, 2, 3, 4, these are string. Even though you have numbers in between, they are still string. Now, we also have symbols, right? If I have my opening quotes and closing quotes, and I have, let's say, the arts, I have the hash sign, $sign, percentage, whatever sign that you have, the and sign, these are referred as string. And the reason is because they are inside a quote. Remember I said, you can either use a single quote or use a double quote. Now, they both work the same way. The only thing you need to understand is whatever you start with, you need to end with it. Say, for instance, I start with a double quote and I end with a one quote. The machine is going to throw an error. Yes, you might not be able to see it right now, but let's even try to save what we have. I'm just going to say Control S to save. I'm going to give it a name. So let's navigate to the desktop and I'm choosing the tutorial and I'm going to be calling it, let's say, day 3.py. Now, if I save it, a program should run. So now, like I said, to run it, you can come to the run module, which is same as F5. We're going to be using the shortcut key going forward. Now, you can see it's throwing an error, right? While scanning string literal. You understand that you declare string, but there was an error. The computer couldn't tell the end of the string. And the reason is because you were not consistent with what you use. If I just remove this and replace it with one quote, and if I save it and run again with my F5, everything should run fine. You can see, although nothing is printing, it's fine because we didn't ask the machine to print anything actually, so it's not printing anything. That's fine, but we not getting error means everything worked just fine. Now let's go back to our program and see. I'm just going to minimize this a bit so I can always navigate to this place. Now you've understand what strings are. String are set of characters placed in between quotes. Now let's say, for instance, you're writing a letter. For some reasons, the letter has something like apostrophe. Let's say we have something like, I want to write something like this. Or let's say I even decide to use a single quote and I say, this doesn't. Remember, you can always have doesn't like this. right? This doesn't belong to me. You can already see that something is wrong. Now, in the event where you are going to use either the single quote or double quote in between your string, you have to be strategic about it. This is really just telling me, okay, why not just use double quotes, right? As well, and it works. And in some instances as well, you can have, maybe you want to have emphasis and maybe double quotes in between, which means I can just use my single quote. So you can always change this based on what you want. As you can see, okay, this doesn't really work because I already had this in between, right? But you get the gist. And in some instances, maybe for some reasons, you have to use the single quote if you wish. Now, there's what we call escape character in programming. It's just what we use backward slash, right? You know of the forward slash, right? Backward slash can do the same thing. So backward slash, you're just going to ignore this and allow you to still do the same thing. But now, don't just worry about this. Just go ahead and use your double quotes, and I think everything will be fine. Now, another thing is we need to understand is the integer, right? This int here means integer. Now, in programming, integer are numbers, right? Number 1, number 2, and as you can see, you have 1, 2, 3. Which is different from this. You can even already see the color. If we run a program with the F5, it's asking us to save. Everything should still run fine, right? Because the computer understands an integer. You understand what it is. So in other words, always understand that whenever you want to declare a number, right, you don't need to wrap them in a string. In fact, let's ask the machine, what data type is this? Remember, I said we have some built-in function. We've used the print function, all right? So Python still gives us another built-in function called type function, right? Just to check the type. Maybe you do not know, right? So let's just type, which is type, then open and close. All right, so now let's check what type is it. I'm just going to run my F5 and nothing is showing. Maybe because we are not printing it. All right, let's print it. Let's just say print function. Let's wrap it in the print function. Print. I'm just going to wrap it so you can see how we are nesting function in the function, which is really cool, right? Now let's print it out. Let's print whatever the result is. I'm just going to say F5. And as you can see, Python is telling us strategically that this is an integer. The reason is because we just wrote it as 1, 2, 3. How about we just wrap this in to become a string? You're going to see the magic right now. And if you run it, now to human can read this as 1, 2, 3. However, to machine sees it as a string. I mean, these are things to put in mind in the event where you want to make your calculation. Maybe for some reasons you want to do calculation. Always remember that whatever is wrapped in opening and closing quotes belongs to string, and whatever doesn't have and is a digit belongs to integer. Now that you have this understanding, I think we need to move forward. So what are floats? What are floats really? Floats, literally, in fact, let's just duplicate this one. Floats are very similar to numbers. Floats are just in decimal places. So let's just say maybe 0.0. Now this becomes a float. I know that while we were doing mathematics, especially in secondary school, we had to do things like decimal places and the likes. Of course, the same thing too happens here. This is float, whatever have a period. Meanwhile, in programming, we call points, period as well, right? Whatever have this point here and any other number becomes a float. Let's see, let's run it so that you're sure that I'm not just blabbing. You can see here we have, let's check it out. we have float. Okay. Now, what if for some reasons you also want to declare another type of value? Remember, we checked the value. In fact, let's duplicate this, and also let me just have this as a value. Now, there's another value in programming called Boolean, right? Which is the fourth one. Boolean majorly is true or false. Remember, when you're writing some exams, the only options you have is true or false. If they ask you, is this color red? True or false? In programming, we also need that option. And that is what we call Boolean value. Is either it's 0 or it's 1, right? It's either it's on or it's off. So you can imagine you switching on the light and switching it off. These are things that really happen under the hood. It's either you're turning it to 0 or you're turning it to 1. And computer allows us to do this, just that. So in Python, you can have your Boolean value, which is either true or false. Now, let's check it out. I'm just going to copy the print function. And let's check what type is this value. True. Okay. Now, let's run it. I'm just going to run it and say F5. You can see it's a bool. That's Boolean. Cool. How about the false? Let's check it as well. Say, we save it, and I run my F5. Of course, you can see bool again. Remember, the moment you wrap it, it becomes a string. If I run it and I run my L5, it's telling me to save it. Syntax error somewhere. Oh, interesting. I mistakenly typed S. Sorry, Python. I'm just gonna, instead of save, okay, I'm just going to say F5. As you can see, string. This is really cool. So right now, you really understood the major data type in programming. All right, we spoke about the string, we spoke about the integer, float, and Boolean. And right now, you should be proud that you're able to distinguish the type of value that the machine understands, which are string, integer, which is number, float, which is a decimal place, Boolean, which is either true or false. Right now, I want to give you a test, right? I want you to look at some set of things and tell me what value it will get. Before you even copy and paste it on your IDLE, make sure you predict what the answers will be, then print it and see whether you're correct. So let's see. I'm just going to say your practice. Okay. So you're going to check, like I said, before you run it, try to predict what they are. Then run it and see whether you're correct. Thank you for watching. And this is how we wrap it up for today's session, which is very, very fantastic. Of course, you should be able to really assimilate this. You can read more about it. And if you have any question, let me know in the comment section and I'll be willing to answer all of your comments. If you're here to subscribe to our YouTube channel, please do so and follow us on all our social media handles so that you can be notified every time we release a new update. Until tomorrow, I'll see you in the next one.